Assalamu alaikum everyone. Moving on to our panel discussion, the topic of which is COVID and the stock market. Is the rebound in equities justified? And this session will be moderated by highly qualified senior anchor and head of online trading at Alpha Adi Private Limited, Mohammad Shuja Qureshi. Now, Mohammad Shuja, to start the panel discussion and introduce our esteemed panelist, I'm just moving on to you.
May I know your name?
Sure, my name is Maharif and I am the assistant manager of IBA Finance Club.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to all. I think we are missing a few people, but we'll just go ahead and start. I can see that Raza and Hamad have joined. So Raza Jafri is an old friend of mine. We have known each other for a very long time now. Raza, good to see you. He's the head of equities at Intermarket Securities. Welcome. And Hamad Aman is the associate director at KASP. So I think the topic is very interesting, and COVID and stock market, is the rebound justified? I think this question can be answered in just a yes and a no. So since we have Raza and Hamad, so I would like to start with just a vote, just answer yes or no, and then I would ask you to elaborate on that. So Raza, if we can start with you. Kindly unmute yourself, please. Hamad, you can also unmute. Can you hear me?
Right, Shuja, hi, sorry, I apologize. We can hear you well. I wasn't able to unmute myself, but can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's the thing. You're saying that you want a yes or no answer?
Yes, to begin with, just say yes or no, and then I would like to.
Okay, so I would say no, but in the sense that it needs to be more. It's not justified, and that the rebound is not enough.
Okay. Hamad, welcome. Can you just answer in a yes and a no?
Yes, absolutely. I believe the rebound is justified, but I completely agree with Raza. I think it's not enough right now. There is quite a big potential to grow more from here.
Okay, so actually, okay, coming back to Raza, I'm a bit confused. So you're saying no, it's not justified?
It needs to be more. It's not justified in the sense that I think it should be more because we are up in the last 12 months. The Pakistan stock market, or the KSE 100 index, which is the benchmark, is up 50%, which sounds like a lot. But if you compare to developed markets or emerging markets, so developed markets are up 55% in the last 12 months. Emerging markets, of which Pakistan is of course a part, they're up 59% last 12 months. And let us now take 3 months back and go 15 months back. Actually, not even talk about 12 months back. Let us go 15 months back. This is pre-COVID. So China, with of course COVID had started, towards the end of 2019, but for the world, it became relevant, I guess, in February and March. So if we go in a quarter before COVID started, since then, Pakistan stock market is up 8%. Developed markets are up 22%. Emerging markets are up 21%. So relatively speaking, we actually haven't rebounded as much as we should have, even though we seem to have done better in the pandemic compared to other markets and other economies. So obviously COVID was less lethal here, thankfully. I mean, obviously it's been a tragedy, but it's been relatively less lethal. And the impact on the economy hasn't been as much as it was on others, right? So our lockdowns were only for a small period of time. They weren't as severe as in others. So in that context, maybe we should have actually done done more. So I would argue that it's justified in the sense that, of course, this rebound is justified, but it should actually be more. That is my line of attack on this one.
Okay. Before I go to Hamad, I believe Dr. Saqib is also with us. He's the associate professor at IBA. I can't see him, so I'm sorry. I did not introduce him. I can only see Hamad over here, and of course Raza. Anyway, so yes, Hamad, please go ahead and now elaborate on what you said.
Yes, basically I do believe that potential अभी काफ़ी ज़्यादा रहता है हमारी पाकिस्तान मार्केट में from here onwards as well. जैसे रज़ा ने कहा कि हमारी मार्केट ने अभी अंडर परफॉर्मेंस की है, उसकी quite a few reasons हैं. I think you would agree on it. हमारे पास से foreign outflows काफ़ी ज़्यादा regularly चलते रहे हैं over the last year, even though COVID was there. Net outflows ही रहे हैं foreign funds के, even though हमारे लास्ट फ्यू मंथ्स अगो रोशन डिजिटल अकाउंट इनकॉर्पोरेट हो गए थे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान की तरफ से, जिसमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा हमने नंबर ऑफ अकाउंट्स देखे टुवर्ड्स द बैंक्स. तो डॉलर का इनफ्लो हमारे पास आया पाकिस्तान में, रिलेटिवली बहुत कम पैसा आया स्टॉक मार्केट में, बट क्योंकि डॉलर का इनफ्लो आया, हमारे डॉलर पे हमने अप्रिसिएशन देखी, सॉरी रुपी पे अप्रिसिएशन देखी हमने रिसेंटली लास्ट 2-3 मंथ्स में, और हमारा डॉलर अब 151 रुपीज़ पे ट्रेड हो रहा है फ्रॉम 168. तो आई डू सी कि यहाँ से हम काफ़ी ज़्यादा अपसाइड हम यहाँ से मज़ीद देख सकते हैं. बाहर के ममालिक के लिए जब हम यूएस या किसी की बात करें जहाँ पर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स नियर टू जीरो चल रहे हैं इस वक्त ड्यू टू कोविड एज वेल, तो पाकिस्तान इज स्टिल वेरी वेरी अट्रैक्टिव. 7% पे हम रेट 7% पे हम इंटरेस्ट रेट्स देख रहे हैं, तो उनके लिए बहुत अट्रैक्टिव है, स्पेशली फॉर ओवरसीज पाकिस्तानीज, जो कि यहाँ सिर्फ बैंक में भी पैसा रखवाएं तो 6-7% उनको मिल जाता है ऑन डॉलर टर्म्स. They don't even have to fix it. तो हमारे पास डॉलर का इनफ्लो मुझे लगता है कंटिन्यू होते हुए लगता है. और जैसे रजा कहते हैं कि हम लोगों ने अभी बिल्कुल भी परफॉर्मेंस की नहीं है. रीजनल मार्केट्स अगर हम पाकिस्तान के आसपास की मार्केट से सिर्फ देख लें तो हमारे पास अच्छा खासा मार्जिन बनता है. सिर्फ प्राइस अर्निंग मल्टीपल की हम बात कर लें, हम अभी भी 8 के करीब भी नहीं पहुंचे, बाकी मार्केट्स 20-15 पे पहुंच गई हैं. इवन रीजनल की बात करूं, यूएस की बात करें तो दे हैव एक्चुअली ब्रोकन देयर ओन रिकॉर्ड्स.
ओके, ठीक है. लेट्स गो टू डॉक्टर साकिब. डॉक्टर साकिब, प्लीज बताइए, व्हाट इज योर व्यू? यू थिंक द rebound in the stock market is justified?
Thank you very much, Shuja sir, for giving me an opportunity. Am I audible to you?
Yes.
तो मेरा थोड़ा सा व्यू जो होगा, जो बाकी मेरे रिस्पेक्टेड कोलीग्स हैं जो उन्होंने अपना व्यू दिया उससे थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट है. I might say कि it is not, उनका ख्याल है कि yes it is justified and it should be more, जो and they focused on positive aspects only. लेकिन मेरा थोड़ा सा व्यू ये होगा कि यानी हम जब हम मार्केट्स की बात करते हैं तो we cannot see in isolation, right? अगर आप थोड़ा सा देखें ये 5-6 महीने में कि PDM के जो हैं डिफरेंट सिटीज में बड़े बड़े जलसे हुए, महंगाई हुई है, हमारे पास गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज कोई कंसिस्टेंट नहीं है, राइट? ठीक है, ये अच्छी बात है कि हमारे पास रेमिटेंसेस भी आई हैं, और फिर वो FATF की जो FATF की तलवार लटक रही थी और एक गवर्नमेंट प्रोजेक्ट कर रहा था कि वील बी आउट ऑफ द ग्रे लिस्ट एज वेल, राइट? वो भी नहीं हुआ, अभी भी नहीं. देयर इज अ प्रोग्रेस, यस, नो डाउट, लेकिन अभी भी काफ़ी चीज़ें जो हैं थिंग्स नीड्स टू बी डन, राइट? और जो हमारे पास है, अल्दो बिकॉज ऑफ द रोशन डिजिटल अकाउंट्स, ये रेमिटेंसेस हमारे पास बहुत ज़्यादा आ रही हैं, विच इज़ अ पॉजिटिव थिंग. लेकिन यानी आई विल लुक एट फ्रॉम द होलिस्टिक पर्सपेक्टिव, और एक तो ये इस वजह से मैं नो कह रहा हूँ, और दूसरा रीज़न ये है, लाइक मेरे अगेन रिस्पेक्टेड कोलीग्स ने, हमाद साहब ने और रजा जाफरी साहब ने कहा कि इफ़ यू कंपेयर इट विद इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स या डेवलप मार्केट्स ना, तो उन्होंने ज़्यादा अच्छा परफॉर्म किया, या उनके जो मल्टीपल्स हैं, राइट, वो अच्छे हैं. लेकिन अगेन आई थिंक जब हम कंपेयर कर रहे हैं तो पाकिस्तान हैज़ इट्स ओन सेट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स, सेट ऑफ इश्यूज, राइट? तो उसको भी थोड़ा सा हमें देखना पड़ेगा. सो इट्स नॉट लाइक वेरी फ्रेंडली, आई मस्ट से कि जो है ये चीज़ें हैं, यानी हम अगर वो रिस्क प्रीमियम्स को ऐड करें तो वो फिर अगेन मेरा ख्याल है कि still things are not clear.
Right. Oh, yes. I think the risk premiums that Dr. Saqib is mentioning, we all know, we are in the market for many years. They are already quite discounted, especially in the political uncertainty in Pakistan. And that is why Hamad mentioned our market P is so low. And even if you look at individual stocks, I mean, they are even trading at a lower PE than they should be. Let's look at the examples of two of our blue chip companies, OGTCL and PPL. I think what their earnings are, future earnings, and at the price that they are trading, very, very, very low price and very low PE. So, Reza, how would you respond to what Dr. Saqib has said?
I understand the reasons. I obviously I'm not saying that Pakistan is a perfect story and there is no political noise, and I understand where Dr. Saab is coming from. Obviously, I understand that the economy has constraints. But अगर आप खाली COVID की बात करें, I think what people need to understand is obviously in the grand scheme of things, COVID, I would say, is meaningless. Has it changed? I mean, in the sense that not to obviously maybe drag it down too much, like in the context of equities की बात कर लें, there is I mean अगर आप बाहर जाएं, and I was talking to a very senior like the CEO, you know Shujaa Najam साहब की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ at Next. So I think that he was saying was he went abroad and he was talking to somebody and he wanted to do equities in Canada, and they're like, what is your investment horizon? And he said 5 years. It's long term, it's 5 years. Like, unless you have a 10-year horizon, don't even think about equities, for instance. So, I mean, I'm just saying that is the perception. In the grand scheme of things, 5 or 10 years ke horizon pe, COVID has certainly accelerated some things, technology adoption, all of those things. But has it really derailed you from anything that you weren't doing before? Pakistan ke political masail pehle bhi the, aage bhi rahenge. PDM, Dr. Saab mentioned, of course, very quickly that seems to be not a problem anymore as far as the political landscape is concerned. Some people might say that it's a good thing or a bad thing. We won't get into that. But I'm just saying that in the grand scheme of things, COVID I mean, what has changed, in the context of equities? You mentioned OGDC, PPL, certainly very cheap. Usme ye hai ki obviously, I think the lack of a dividend has harmed them. Again, nothing to do with COVID. If the students that have joined us today have been reading the papers, then they would be aware that there is an imminent expectation that payments for circular debt will be released, which will be good for the energy sector, and you will see that the stocks will react. So the wisdom of the markets, I feel you can't say that the markets are wrong in this instance. I do feel that the markets have been right. If anything, we've been too conservative in Pakistan. हम इतने बार डसे हुए हैं पहले के शायद हमें confidence नहीं आ रहा कि नहीं बाकी चीजें बेहतर हो भी सकती हैं पाकिस्तान में.
And Hamad, of course, Dr. Saqib mentioned the political uncertainty, and I said, as you mentioned, that it's always built in Pakistan, because we have, unfortunately never seen a very long period of political certainty in Pakistan. And that is why what you were saying, and I also said that our price earning multiple of the market and of individual stocks are so low. So how would you respond to Dr. Saqib's observation?
जी बिल्कुल, डॉक्टर साहब ने जैसे कहा रिगार्डिंग रिस्क प्रीमियम के हवाले से, पीडीएम के हवाले से जो अदर फैक्टर्स हैं, इसके लिए हम थोड़ा सा पीछे चले जाते हैं, प्री एमएससीआई टाइम, प्री 2017 भी हम चले जाएं, तो आई थिंक हमारी मार्केट की जो हमने रैली देखी बिटवीन 2015 एंड 17, उसमें भी कुछ इसी मल्टीपल से हम राइज होते होते we all reached to approximately 12 multiple, which was still very cheap at that time if we were looking at regional markets. Now the downfall came, उसके बाद आपकी वाली बात जैसे uncertainties हुई, और वो हमारे मुल्क में हमेशा से रही. इसकी वजह से हमारे लोकल इन्वेस्टर्स, जो मैं देख रहा होता हूँ कुछ नंबर्स एट टाइम्स, रिसेंटली मैंने कुछ स्टडी भी किए हैं, लोकल इन्वेस्टर्स आर नॉट फुली इन्वेस्टेड इन द स्टॉक मार्केट. अगर हम बाहर की मार्केट्स की बात करें तो पाकिस्तान में 0.12% टू बी एग्जैक्ट of the total population is invested in the stock market, and that's not even active people. I'm talking about exact total people. That's very less compared to 3% in India, 4% in Bangladesh. बाकी यूएस की तो आप बात नहीं कर रहे हो, तो डबल डिजिट्स में चले जाते हैं. तो इतना कम अगर इन्वेस्टर बेस होता है हमारे पास, तो हम लोग इट्स डिफिकल्ट के पी रेशियो को हम बहुत ज्यादा ऊपर देख सकें. दैट इज वन ऑफ द रीजंस. एक और चीज जो कोविड टाइम्स में मैंने ज्यादा ऑब्जर्व की, आई थिंक सिंस द कोविड हैज हिट और लॉकडाउन की वजह से लोग घर पे थे, न्यूज में हर वक्त देख रहे थे स्टॉक मार्केट सडनली परफॉर्म करनी स्टार्ट कर दी राइट आफ्टर आवर वेरी फर्स्ट लॉकडाउन. many new investors have actually approached the brokerage industry, and I'm sure you guys are aware of that. At least interest उन्होंने show किया. कुछ लोगों ने पैसों की बात नहीं है ज़्यादा लगाए कि कम लगाए, but at least new UINs were starting to open. By UINs for students, I mean new accounts actually. तो काफी सारे न्यू इनफ्लो आने शुरू हो रहे हैं. अगर आप जनवरी में देख लें इस साल, आई थिंक वी ऑब्जर्व second highest volume ever in PS6 actually since 2005 in terms of shares actually. So I think this will be quite a big change, or especially with the foreign non-overseas Pakistanis now can invest in stock market as well. So I do think यहाँ पर market sustain कर सकती है हमारी, even though third wave हमारी अभी चल रही है.
Okay. Achha, one my personal observation, if I may, I think yes, there are uncertainties, and the third wave has been really, hurting the overall the sentiment of people. And thank God, I think the data that came in today, the active cases did drop below 4,000. That's a good sign. I hope it sustains and comes down even more. But looking at the stock market and the rebound, I think it's quite justified, because the steps that the government took last year, especially the construction package, and we have seen the cement and steel stocks perform really well. And of course, the results that have been coming in, they showed that there was, a robust rebound over there. So yeah, and we look at individual stocks, and we are in the business of marketing the market. So we tell that story that, okay, if you look at the first quarter and the second quarter earnings of mostly, cement and steel stocks, they have done really well. And given the dispatches number that came in for March, the all-time record high for cement, that has actually, given confidence to the cement sector analysts. Raza would know that, that, they are even now projecting better results. So yeah, if you look at individual companies, because that is what we do. When we invest in the stock market, you buy shares of a company based on their future earnings, right? So if the future earnings are expected to be better than what they were last year, and if they sustain the sales, what we saw in the first and the second quarter of this fiscal year, then the earnings will be quite upbeat. And that is why I think what Raza and Hamad initially mentioned, that there's more room for many stocks to go up. So that's my take. Dr. Saqib, would you like to add something?
No, I think overall, I'm not pessimist, by the way, but I just wanted to say, to argue just what my respected colleague said, that it should be more. तो उस सवाल से मैं कह रहा था कि still things are not settled, क्योंकि अभी सेनेट के इलेक्शन में आपने देखा जो ड्रामा हुआ था, उसकी वजह से स्टॉक मार्केट्स ने बहुत ज्यादा वो रिएक्ट किया, इस तरह की चीजें जो होती हैं. तो मतलब अगेन व्हाट आई वांटेड टू से कि वी मार्केट्स फॉर ऑल practical purposes are unpredictable. You never know what will happen after 1 minute, after next day, या 1 month पे क्या होता है. तो उस एंगल से मैं था. Otherwise, yes, I think potential तो है, no doubt.
If I may, Shuja, step in just to, obviously I देखें Dr. Saab, I agree with you in the sense कि देखें अगर आप if you look at the horizons, अगर आप short term की बात करें, Shuja mentioned we are in the third wave. तो अगर आप सिर्फ कोविड की बात करते हैं तो of course third wave is a problem, and it is possible that in the short term the market looks at the third wave and says, look, we might go into lockdowns that might affect, as Shuja said, might affect profitability of companies if you go into a mini lockdown or a restrict lockdown. So certainly short term mein COVID is certainly relevant, and in the but my argument is in the medium term, maybe COVID is not, maybe it was relevant last year, but abhi bhi agar aap dekhen to the IMF has raised global growth estimates aaj ke akhbar mein hai, and they're saying that there is a lot of increasing visibility. But I 100% agree with you. For me, the next 12 months ya agle 2 saal 3 saal pe, the risk for me is less from COVID, but it is certainly from the economic reforms. Just while you hinted at that, for me, I can sense that the government wants to do a little bit of populist decision making, awam ko relief dena chahe, which is, I guess, justified as well. but we also want to continue our reforms, because in the last 15 years, every 5 years, we have, jab bhi elections sar pe aate hain, we have gone into an IMF program and done the same things over and over again. And this government, I have felt that has been trying to do things a little differently, but shayad they are being, the limits of their resolve are being tested now. And you can see some populist decision making come in, right? So the finance minister has changed, as you said. And, there is a new economic advisory council. Maybe they have vested interests. They will maybe want ke, unko bhi fayda ho unki industries ya unke usko. So we will see. I do feel that for me, certainly I'm not saying that it's all hunky-dory, but for me, COVID is less of a concern. It's a concern right now for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But beyond that, I would be more focused on our reforms and the shape of the economy rather than just COVID itself. So let's just say I partially agree with you.
And I believe, Raza, I think there's my, again, personal opinion that there's another threat to the market, and it's from the market itself. I mean, what we have seen, and I don't know if you got a chance to read this article in Business Reporter last week, because it was something to do with, the blue chip stocks are not performing, blue-eyed stocks are performing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it was a funny article. I mean, the way they had it was, it was true what they mentioned in there. And they mentioned this Munna Bhai and company also. I think this is something which is very difficult for us to explain to our investors, because, like we discussed earlier, that some of the blue chip stocks are not performing, but some stocks that, have gone up by 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a short period of time, their earnings just don't justify the prices. And we have seen one of that stock coming down. It has already lost about 50% from the high it made. And it's completely changed the sentiment of the market. And even good stocks that, I would sort of invest at these rates as well and advise, they are also not performing. So, there's the role of the regulator comes in here. So, Hamad, I'll come to you first. How do you see the role of our regulators to, avoid such circumstances? And what do you, I don't know if you have read that article which came in Business Reporter. They have a research paper. So what's your take on that? How would you respond?
On the regulator side, I think they have started some kind of reforms. जैसे मैंने कहा अभी recently उन्होंने कुछ online onboarding start कर दिए regarding account openings, things like that. तो अगर हम लोग ease of इस तरह की formalities provide कर सकते हैं from regulators to general public, so a lot of new people, be it 5, 10, 15,000 rupees, people investing just coming into the account stock market, will actually jump in, and that will actually stabilize the market in a lot of ways. आप लास्ट ईयर की बात कर लें, जब हमारा फर्स्ट लॉकडाउन हुआ था, उस वक्त एक केस आया था ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम, मे बी फरवरी में हमारा फर्स्ट एवर केस आया था, एंड बिकॉज अनसर्टेनिटी थी, वी हैड नो आइडिया व्हाट वाज गोइंग ऑन, व्हाट कोविड विल डू टू अस, द स्टॉक मार्केट जस्ट क्रैश्ड एवरी सिंगल डे. People were taking money out of the market and no one was entering at all. Right now we are standing at 44,000-45,000 index, and third wave chal rahi hai, 4,000 cases hain, and there is not that much panic in the market if we compare to last year. I do think that is pretty much to do with the regulators. They have during this year especially, उन्होंने काफी सारी चीजें हमारे लिए आसानी पैदा की हुई हैं to go about things, especially for the mass public.
ठीक है. Okay, I can see Mr. Kamran Nasir has joined us, CEO of JS Global. Kamran, very warm welcome. Good to see you. So, आपकी तरफ ही आते हैं, and the topic is COVID and stock market, is the rebound justified? So, what do you think? What is your opinion? Is the rebound justified?
It's a very simple case. See, markets, they work on anticipation. So, Pakistan, let's give credit where it is due. Whereas I will not be able to supplement my argument maybe with hardcore facts, but Pakistan has been one country that has been hardly hit in terms of when you compare it to your peers in the region. So that situation completely turned around the game, and that brought optimism into the market. Initially, we were thinking that maybe the next 12 to 18 months will be so bad that Pakistan would not be able to recover out of it. Resultantly, we saw certain actions being taken by the government. Some of them were very good in the right direction, but some helped the businesses in general and some sectors in particular, such as the actions taken by the central bank in terms of reducing the policy rate, IMF pressure being reduced, because generally, world over or globally, this phenomena was in place that economies, if they have to flourish, then central bank will have to ease off, and the governments will have to, give incentive packages. So all that put together, Pakistan was a great beneficiary. That the government moved in that direction. They started announcing packages. They brought the interest rate downs. They came out with certain other schemes. So, and then eventually the numbers, what we saw. Now, what I would like to believe is that I would like to rely on these numbers, that these are the number of cases which are genuine, and that's what the situation on ground is. And resultantly, the expectation from the economic point of view, it completely changed. So if you put your attention to these factors, then certainly this rebound is justified. I was listening to this conversation just when I joined a little late. I'm sorry for that because I was stuck and caught up with traffic. But these penny stocks, why they are doing well, and there are certain blue chip stocks that are not doing well. Market has always remained, funny in a manner of speaking, especially when it comes to Pakistan. Sometimes you will not understand why certain stock is, behaving in that particular fashion, and sometimes you will not be able to understand why this stock is not performing, whereas all the reasons point into the right direction. When you read economy properly, foremost, and this is an opinion that I believe in very strongly, we say that stock markets index is a reflection of the economy's barometer. In Pakistan, it is loosely aligned because the major sector is not represented on the Pakistan Stock Exchange Board. So we do not have the major part of the economy well reflected on the stock exchange, because we are an agrarian economy and we do not see such things and companies in that sector specifically being reflected on the stock exchange. But in the history of the stock exchange, I mean, I have been engaged with the stock exchange for over 20 years. So you will find these funny moments where generally the perception of the people is to invest in stocks that would double overnight. Hardly people pay attention to the fundamentals of the companies. So it's a herd mentality. And with that herd mentality, people suffer a lot also. I have been very candidly talking to people whenever I go on such platforms. It's a very great opportunity that you guys have engaged the IBA students on this platform and taking opinions. So people need to read in what they're investing. They need to understand. They need to follow the fundamentals very carefully. The general herd mentality in Pakistan is that if there is a penny stock, it was 2 rupees yesterday, the next day it will go to 3. The next day, if it will move to 4, then the entire retail market will jump into it. Now, this is something which is taken, people take advantage of such things. And there is nobody to blame. I mean, if you're going to blame the investors or a group of people, generally it is to do with lack of education that we have in our environment. So that what I feel very strongly, that Pakistan capital markets, to me, they are not at a place where they should be. We are lagging behind by a huge, huge margin. I mean, I can't even put it to numbers. Pakistan was the one that taught Bangladesh how you have to put up your stock exchanges. Now they have around 4 million investors. Pakistan is struggling at 250,000. India is above 30 million. So we are nowhere. So the actual function of demand and supply is loosely present in the market. There are a certain number of UINs, if they have money and if they start buying a particular stock, people generally see that rally and they get enticed by investing into those stocks. And hence the reason why you were alluding to in your conversation previously, that maybe there are no fundamentals, that stock has gone up by a huge percentage, or maybe multiple stocks have gone up. And even as a person who was a student of economy, I cannot even justify. But when people, it's a demand and supply thing. When people, they would start flocking in to investing into those stocks, resultantly, it will go up. But generally speaking, coming back to economy, Shuja, I have a very strong opinion that Pakistan has been super lucky. Alhamdulillah, we have been very lucky. What is happening in the world globally in terms of pandemic and the way it has panned out in different countries, whether you give credit to immunity, whether you give credit to whatever you want to give it to, or whether we have already we are already reaching close to maybe herd immunity because people may have gotten it and they are not aware of it. They have just passed through that episode. But I was in London about a couple of months ago, and I was having this meeting with a lot of fund managers, and they were surprised. They were like, "What have you done right?" I said, "Maybe the only thing that I can say is that God has been on our side."
Okay, right. Okay, and yes, I think a lot of criticism comes from people and Pakistanis, and it's about the vaccination drive. And many people are criticizing that the vaccination drive is very slow. But I can tell you, I'm sure all of us, many of us have families in other countries as well. I have some family in Canada. They have not even started vaccinating people who are 50 plus. They are only vaccinating 60 plus. In Pakistan, at least we have started 50 plus. So, before we criticize too much, we should look at what's happening in the rest of the world. Okay, and Kamna, I would like to answer, in fact, ask you another question, because what you mentioned about other markets having more investors than Pakistan, you gave the example of Bangladesh. So what is the reason? Why is that, we have so, the number of investors are so low in Pakistan, and why have we not been able to increase that number?
Excellent question, Shuja, and being a strong advocate of how we have to address the situation. Number one, we are ourselves to blame. So it starts from the brokerage fraternity in the first place, where there have been certain accidents that have taken away the confidence of the common man completely out of the stock exchange. Generally, people believe that this is a market where the Satta mentality, so to speak, prevails, and there is no attention paid to the fundamentals of a company. So that's one. Two, certain accidents that have taken place where the money was taken off by a certain broker, and the broker overnight disappeared. So that greatly reduced the confidence of the general public, and that negative publicity was carried on in the Pakistani press, in the Pakistani media. Resultantly, people are scared of it. Third, I think the general level of education has a huge role to play. We keep on talking about how to help the government in terms of what economic reforms can be put into place. You see, if you would ask me whether Pakistan is in default, I would say Pakistan is perpetually in default for the last over 2 decades now. We are borrowing money to settle our obligations. So we do not have, or we are yet to find a situation that can bail us out from that particular area. So whosoever is the finance minister, they know the way. They probably know that we have to borrow more and then we have to plug it inside, but the fiscal discipline is not coming in, and it won't, because in my humble view, you will have to educate your society. We do not understand a lot of things. We are way behind. Our mentality is to invest into property or to buy gold. This is all that we know about savings, or at best go into national saving schemes. Then the tax arbitrage, that's another problem. Now you have a different taxation, different KYC, different rules and regulations for different investment classes. Now this in itself is the biggest impediment. If you have to invest into property, nobody's asking you a question. If you have to invest in national saving schemes, again, nobody's asking you a question. Now, when you go and stock in the capital markets of Pakistan, you are flooded with questions. You are on the radar. You are being asked about the source of income. You are asked about multiple things. So that deters the investor from coming in into the capital markets in the first place. And then the taxation regime, you pay 15% irrespective of whatever. In the property side, there is a different scheme completely. When you go to the national savings, again, a different tax incentive. Now, unless and until either you make it at par with each other, or two, if you want to promote capital market, then you will have to incentivize it properly. And lastly, I think regulators have a huge role to play. You have to make the entire process very easy. You have to entice people how you come to invest into the capital markets of Pakistan. And last but not the least, few steps the government should take. The privatization process. You see, whenever you go for these SPOs, you should have a separate allocation for individuals, give them incentive that if the book building is taking place of, say, for example, HPL, secondary public offering, institutions are investing, they will get the price what is there in the book build. But for a normal Pakistani who is investing for the first time in capital markets, they will get an allocation maybe at a 10% discount. This is how you bring people in. So we have given these suggestions to the government repeatedly, but unfortunately, I think there is a huge problem in the Pakistan bureaucracy. You talked about vaccination. Vaccination, whether it is 50 plus or 60 plus, is not the issue. Unfortunately, the issue is how much you have in pipeline. So if they have started in the Western world to vaccinate people above 60, then it will be the turn of the people who are above 50. So generally, in the next 10 to 12 months, they will be able to vaccinate about 75% of the population. In Pakistan, what you have relied so far is on only 1 million vaccinations that have been given to you in grant. And so far, there is no G2G agreement with any vaccination manufacturer. And to add, insult to injury, when the private sector jumped into it, the way the red tape has worked in case of Sputnik, we have been following that news, only 50,000 doses, and they had to seek permission from the court. Now, these are all willing buyers. I mean, there are people in Pakistan who would go to Dubai, spend about 350,000 to 400,000 rupees. Now, who's stopping them to buy something at 12,000 rupees? Why the issue of price? Because if I would go to vaccinate myself, or you would go, you would just not vaccinate yourself, but rather maybe domestic staff. So you are taking burden off the government. So we have a problem at that level. In case of stock markets, the regulators will have to put out a very strong roadmap. Pakistan, from the economic point of view, will have to find a way where these investment classes, they have to be promoted with proper incentives, and then investor education has to come in really handy.
Okay, there are some interesting comments coming from the students, and one of the comments which I saw was that, so is our market artificially inflated? Raza, would you like to respond to that?
Okay, I mean, I was reading the comments as well. I'm glad you brought this up. Look, when we have talked about penny stocks, in the short term, supply and demand will have an impact, right? If I want to buy a stock and I want to take it up today and I have the muscle to do it, I'll do it. But in the long term, stocks will come back to their fair value or their fundamental value. Okay? And obviously, I'm cognizant that we are speaking to students of IBA, and obviously, if they are not going to do their homework and open the books and understand the businesses, then who is going to do it? Okay? So obviously, if the students have an interest in देखिए मैं आपको वही कहता हूँ, I mean obviously and we've talked about this multiple times, but आप एक हिस्सेदारी ले रहे हैं in a company, and obviously हमारी unfortunately फितरत ये है कि हम we want that quick buck. तो अगर आप एक सीमेंट प्लांट लगाते हैं या कोई टेक्सटाइल प्लांट लगाते हैं तो दूसरे दिन पैसे नहीं बने तो आप बंद तो नहीं कर देंगे, right? You will stick to it for a few years, right? So I think that's the investment horizon that needs to be in place, and obviously as students of IBA, they need to obviously go through the books and understand the business. And ये नहीं कि जी herd immunity or herd mentality, तो at least the students of IBA should not be aware of this. जहाँ तक returns की बात आ गई, I see a question on returns as well. Be curious, ask questions. In the last 20 years, this index has given an annual return of 18%. In the last 10 years, the KSE 100 has given a return of 14%. In the comparable timelines, gold's return has been 10%. Dollar's average annual return has been 5%. Same for pound and the Japanese yen. Residential plots on Zameen.com data is available. I don't know how they're doing it, but the last 10 years, the average return is 11% for residential plots. And the stock market's actually beaten all of them. Take a longer term scenario, do your homework, and this market has a lot going for it. अगर आपको लगता है कि पाकिस्तान में मजीद income levels बढ़ेंगे, people will come from bicycles to motorcycles to cars eventually. अगर आपको लगता है पिछले 20 सालों में standard of living in general बढ़ा है and it will improve going forward, then you need to be plugged into the companies that are feeding this demand, right? So these companies are all available. You think Colgate will do well? It's listed. You think Mizan Bank will do well? It's listed. You think cement ज़्यादा बिकेगा पाकिस्तान में, कुछ होना है ये, तो वो available है. तो but I just feel that, I mean, obviously हम short term है, हमारी फितरत ये कि we want that quick buck. Unfortunately, I think we need to look beyond that quick buck, and once you start doing that, बड़ी clarity आ जाती है. That's what I think.
बिल्कुल. और मैं एग्जैक्टली यही चीज कहूँगा, बिकॉज मेरा थोड़ा एक्सपीरियंस रहा है. एज यू नो, मैं CDC के प्लेटफॉर्म से अपनी एक वर्कशॉप कराता रहा हूँ ऑन पर्सनल फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग, And that is what I used to tell people over there, the participants, के देखें अपना जैसे as Raza mentioned, you have to do your homework, you need to understand the business, और और eventually अगर कोई जो भी कंपनी अच्छा परफॉर्म कर रही है, अगर अभी उसका स्टॉक परफॉर्म नहीं करा, eventually it will. So, and stock market की investment is always a long-term investment. So, as Raza just gave us some data, that if you look at a long-term horizon, the stock market has beaten other asset classes. So, I mean, just last night, a cousin of mine was here and she was saying she had bought UK pound and now it's gone down. So, what to do with that? So, yeah, this is what we hear from a lot of people. Hamad, आप क्या ऐड करना चाहेंगे इसमें? अब आउटलुक पे अगर हम बात कर लें कि चलें, ये तो अभी जो है, बट स्टॉक मार्केट की आउटलुक के बारे में बात बताइए कि अभी आपको मार्केट ऊपर जाती हुई नजर आ रही है?
जी, पहले मैं ये एड्रेस करना चाहूंगा, एक कमेंट था किसी का फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी के हवाले से, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन के हवाले से, जैसे कामरान साहब ने भी कहा, रजा साहब ने भी कहा, पाकिस्तान में इन्वेस्टर एजुकेशन की बहुत ज़्यादा कमी है, फ्रॉम स्टूडेंट लेवल ऑल द वे टिल जनरल पब्लिक लेवल। रिसेंटली 2-3 साल पहले से अगर हम देखें तो हम लोगों ने खासतौर पे काफ़ी ज़्यादा रिसेंटली ऑन माई पर्सनल लेवल रोड शोज कंडक्ट किए इन मल्टीपल यूनिवर्सिटीज, स्पेशली and especially in hotels as well. The response जो बात मैं कहने जा रहा हूँ, response जो मैंने observe किया लोगों का, interest बहुत ज़्यादा था. The fear factor was there because of pre-2008 times, because वहाँ पर बहुत सारे KYCs की चीज़ें नहीं थी हमारे पास. Regulator point of view से एक जैसे कामरान साहब ने कहा, brokerage industry was the starting point actually, तो काफ़ी सारे mishaps हमारे हुए थे. अब क्योंकि controls और measures काफ़ी ज़्यादा बेहतर हैं, वो हमको एड्रेस करने हैं, लोगों को कॉन्फिडेंस में लाना है, तो जैसे जैसे हम बात करते हैं, लोग ट्राई करने के लिए एटलीस्ट स्टार्ट ऑफ करते हैं विद इवन अ स्मॉल अमाउंट ऑफ मनी. बट अब क्योंकि मैं 3 साल से ये चीज कर रहा हूँ, अब जो नंबर ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स हमारे पास आते हैं जो कहते हैं हम पहले करते थे, या हमारे वालिद साहब करते थे, या फोर फादर्स करते थे, और वी हैव इन्वेस्टेड येट सिंस लास्ट 10 years. इवन वी हैव इन्वेस्टेड इन, जैसे रजा ने कहा कि गोल्ड में, प्रॉपर्टी में हर कोई इन्वेस्ट कर लेता है, बट स्टॉक मार्केट में क्यों घबराते हैं इन्वेस्ट करने, जबकि ज्यादा लिक्विड है. इसको आप आज एक फोन कॉल करें, आपके पैसे रिलीज हो जाते हैं, यू गेट द मनी बैक. इट्स ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर फियर फैक्टर. और उस लिटरेसी को अगर हम थोड़ा सा इस तरह से प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं, स्टूडेंट्स को इनकॉर्पोरेट करते हैं, अभी रिसेंटली 1 साल से तो हम लोग ऑनलाइन सेशंस ही कर पा रहे हैं बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड ओनली, बट आई कैन सी अ लॉट ऑफ वेरी गुड रिस्पॉन्सेज देयर एज वेल. सो आई सी कि इस हवाले से, जैसे आपने आउटलुक की बात की, अगर इतना अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स आता रहे और अगर हम सब मिलके एज अ इंडस्ट्री, चाहे बाय साइड पे हो, सेल साइड पे हो, इस चीज को हम प्रोवाइड करते हैं, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन की बात करें, तो दैट डे वोंट बी लॉन्ग जब हम एक अच्छे 1.5-2% के नंबर पे बैठे होंगे, पीपल विल बी इन्वेस्टेड इन पाकिस्तान.
अच्छा, एक चीज मैंने और नोट की है, जो कमेंट्स स्टूडेंट्स की तरफ से आए हैं, बिकॉज़ दे हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट द मेल्टडाउन इन 2008 एंड बिफोर दैट, तो लग रहा है कि नॉलेज काफी है जो मेल्टडाउन्स की है, और उनकी यही होता है ना कि हर फैमिली में किसी के कोई हॉरर स्टोरी होती है अबाउट द स्टॉक मार्केट व्हिच गोज ऑन एंड ऑन, जनरेशंस में जा रही होती है. तो मेरा यूजुअली कहना ये होता है, द वे आई एक्सप्लेन, कि यू नो व्हेन समबडी इन्वेस्ट इन द मार्केट एंड दे हैव अ बिग लॉस, सो दे ब्लेम द मार्केट. और जो स्पेकुलेशन हो रही होती है, स्पेकुलेशन दुनिया की तमाम मार्केट्स में होती है, आई एम श्योर यू वुड ऑल एग्री, इवन डाउ जोन्स और नैस्डैक में भी स्पेकुलेशन होती होगी, तो वो एक अलग चीज है. And then there are classes of investors. There are long-term investors, then there are traders, day traders होते हैं. So these are different classes of investors. But if you are in the stock market, I would advise कि जी long-term के लिए जाएं. और अगर जिनकी families में कोई ऐसी horror stories हैं, जिन्होंने 2008 के meltdown की बात की है, 2005 की है, before that 2000 की, so I would just say कि whenever ask whoever has made a loss in your family or in your friends circle कि लॉस कैसे हुआ है. When you bought the stock, did you do your homework as Raza was mentioning? या आपने जो हमारे मार्केट में होता है ना, टिप्स पे काम कर रहे होते हैं, टिप्स, हमें टिप मिली है कि जी ये ले लो, और उनको पता भी नहीं होता कि what that company is about, what that company, उसका बिजनेस क्या है, and they just go ahead and buy it, and when the stock is going up they are happy, but they fail to sell, or and then the market comes down and they incur this big loss. So मेरा ये कि आप उनसे सवाल पूछा करें, and this is for all the students, कि जिसने लॉस किया, जो हॉरर स्टोरी बता रहा है, जो कह रहा है कि कभी इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना स्टॉक मार्केट में, उनसे पूछें कि हाउ डिड यू इन्वेस्ट, डिड यू डू एनी होमवर्क, जिस कंपनी में आपने इन्वेस्टमेंट की थी उसके बारे में आपको क्या पता था, उसका बिजनेस क्या था, उसकी अर्निंग्स, फ्यूचर अर्निंग्स क्या आनी थी. तो ये चीजें पूछना बड़ा जरूरी है. और मेरा एक ये होता है, द वे आई सॉर्ट ऑफ टेल पीपल टू गो अबाउट इट, कि देखें स्पेशली आप सब यंगस्टर्स हैं जो यहाँ पे स्टूडेंट्स हैं, कि आप किसी ना किसी को आइडियलाइज कर रहे होते हैं कि यू वांट टू बी दिस और दैट, तो हमेशा जो विनर्स होते हैं, जो सक्सेसफुल होते हैं, उनको फॉलो कर रहे होते हैं। अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारी मार्केट में होता है कि वी टेंड टू फॉलो द लूजर्स, कि ओहो उसने लॉस कर दिया तो आप कह रहे हैं स्टॉक मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना, तो देन नहीं करनी है हमको, विदाउट इवन लाइक फाइंडिंग आउट how he or she made that loss. So please do not just accept what is being told to you by people who have lost in the market. Follow the winners. Okay, don't follow the losers. जैसे हम बाकी भी अपनी जिंदगी में winners को follow करते हैं, तो यहाँ भी स्टॉक मार्केट में जो winners हैं उनको follow करें and question the losers के how they lost. डॉक्टर साकिब, आप यहाँ पे कुछ ऐड करना चाहेंगे?
अगर मैं आउटलुक की बात करूं, आपने जैसे आउटलुक की बात की थी, तो उस हवाले से आई एम वेरी पॉजिटिव, क्योंकि आपको पता है सिंस द स्टार्ट ऑफ दिस ईयर पैंथर टायर्स का बड़ा अच्छा ओवर सब्सक्राइब हुआ, एंड देन सेकंड कंपनी उसका भी आई थिंक आज बुक बिल्डिंग प्रोसेस था, ग्लोबल सर्विसेज फुटवेयर का, जिन्होंने 50 एकड़ लैंड ली है नूरियाबाद में, तो वो चाइनीज बस एंड ट्रक रेडियल टायर्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के लिए, although it will take 4-5 more years, और इसके अलावा और भी कुछ पाइपलाइन में है, तो होपफुली मोर IPOs विल कम। एक ये अच्छी चीज है। प्लस जो सेकंड थिंग इज, शायद आप लोगों को पता होगा या स्टूडेंट्स को भी, ग्रोथ एंटरप्राइज मार्केट है, उस पर आजकल ये पाकिस्तान स्टॉक एक्सचेंज वाले सियालकोट गए थे, सखर गए थे, KPK उधर भी गए थे, तो अब ये वो अवेयरनेस सेशंस भी कर रहे हैं, सो दैट स्मॉल एंड मीडियम, अभी तक खैर कोई सक्सेस नहीं हुआ, लेकिन स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेस कैन रेज कैपिटल थ्रू प्राइमरी मार्केट एंड देन लिस्ट ऑन द सेकेंडरी मार्केट। तो इस अगर इस पे थोड़ा और रेगुलेटर फोकस करे और थोड़ा और वो करें तो काफी अच्छा है। थर्ड एंड लास्ट थिंग क्विकली, वो ये है कि अल्दो के पीपल आर नॉट डायरेक्टली इन्वेस्टिंग इन स्टॉक मार्केट, दैट इज वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट, लेकिन अगर आप देखें इनडायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट इन इक्विटीज बहुत ज्यादा हो रही है। पीपल आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन शरिया कंप्लायंट फंड्स, पेंशन फंड में बहुत ज्यादा इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं जो है, इस तरह और भी बहुत सारे लोगों का अब म्यूचुअल फंड्स की तरफ बहुत इन्वेस्टमेंट हो रही है। चलें, ये भी एक अच्छी चीज है, क्योंकि आगे फिर वो इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स हैं जो कि फिर मार्केट में पोर्टफोलियो रीबैलेंसिंग या वो कर रहे हैं, तो इस हवाले से मतलब ये पॉजिटिव चीजें हैं। यस,
I just saw a question इसमें पूछ रहे थे कि is stock market is really that easy that if you have some financial literacy you can be a winner? I would say yes it is. हम लोग खुद चीजों को कॉम्प्लिकेट कर रहे होते हैं। रजा, आपकी क्या इसके बारे में राय है और फ्यूचर आउटलुक मार्केट का प्लीज?
जी, नो, आई 100% agree. I think अब तो बड़ा आसान हो गया to invest. I think obviously what COVID has taught us is that technology rocks, and obviously we're having this over Zoom, and up to the apps, you don't even have to call your broker, right? You can actually just download an app and actually just start investing up to, you don't even have to have that physical interaction or even interaction over the phone, so that's easy. And yeah, look, I mean, it's not rocket science. A lot of, I mean, our students जो IBA में हैं, some, obviously you will be graduating in the next year or next few years. आपको शायद पता होगा आपने किन कंपनीज में काम भी करना है, where would you like to go? Maybe you want to work at banks or MNCs. क्यों काम करना है आपने वहाँ? Because these companies you think will do well, and they will give you more money, and हर साल आपकी एक इंक्रीमेंट होगी। ऑब्वियसली अगर वो कंपनी बेहतर करेगी तो उसकी शेयर प्राइस भी ऊपर जाएगी, तो आपके पास ऑलरेडी इन योर हेड व्हाट द गुड कंपनीज आर, राइट? सो यू ऑलरेडी नो, स्टूडेंट्स ऑलरेडी नो, तो उस कंपनी का शेयर भी तो अब आप देख ही सकते हैं ना। यू ऑलरेडी हैव अ लिस्ट ऑफ कंपनीज दैट यू फील आर गुड in your head, and a lot of these companies are listed, so take the time out to read their books as well, and the annual reports, and then make a decision. You might want to work for them, but if you feel the company will do well, तो उसका आप शेयर भी ले लें। और दूसरी चीज ये है कि even if you don't want to do any of that, just have some level of awareness. Some way or the other you will be exposed to the stock market. आपने इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी लेनी है, some of that money will be invested in the stock market. If you have a pension plan or a provident fund at a company, some of that, किसी भी company you work for, some of that money will be invested in stocks. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be aware of where your money is being put to use, and इतना कोई rocket science नहीं है शुजा, as you said. I completely agree.
True. अच्छा, एक चीज मैं ऐड करना चाहूंगा। ऑफ कोर्स आई एम श्योर सारे स्टूडेंट्स को वॉरेन बफेट के बारे में पता होगा। I saw one of his interviews on YouTube, तो उसमें उन्होंने बड़ी अच्छी बात की थी, एंड आई थिंक ऑल दी स्टूडेंट्स और जो भी इन्वेस्ट करना चाहता है स्टॉक मार्केट में, जब वो कोई शेयर बाय करे, तो जैसे अभी हमने बात किया, रज़ा ने भी कहा कि अपना होमवर्क करें, तो उन्होंने बड़े अच्छी तरीके से एक्सप्लेन किया कि बिकॉज दिस इज योर हार्ड एंड मनी जो आप इन्वेस्ट कर रहे होते हो, चाहे वो कहीं भी किसी भी एसेट क्लास में जा रही हो. He said कि when you buy a stock, ask yourself this question कि आप लिखें कि okay, I have bought let's say 1,000 shares of PSO, and then give the reasons नीचे कि one, this is the reason why I bought this stock, this is the reason, give some reasons, convince yourself basically कि मैंने जो अपना मेहनत से कमाया हुआ पैसा लगाया है इस स्टॉक में, वो मैंने क्यों लगाया है. सो बिकॉज ही सेड इफ यू कैन नॉट कन्विंस योरसेल्फ, तो फिर जो है वो फिर इन्वेस्टमेंट सही नहीं होगी, देन यू आर ओनली टू ब्लेम योरसेल्फ. तो डू आंसर दीज क्वेश्चंस कि इफ यू बाय अ स्टॉक, आई हैव बॉट 5,000 shares of let's say PPL or whatever, Chirag Cement, and give the reasons, convince yourself. So I think हमारा time is almost up. कामरान साहब, अगर आप ब्रीफली थोड़ा सा अपनी भी आउटलुक मार्केट के बारे में दे दें, and then we will conclude unless there are questions coming in.
Again, on the market side, I am very, very positive, very bullish on the market because market अगर fundamentally देखें तो अभी भी आपके region में तो cheap है ही है, लेकिन जो आपके multiples जहाँ operate कर रहे हैं, so in my view, there is a lot of room for them to go up. जहां तक बात रही इन बच्चों की जो कि IBA से हैं, देखिए मैं एक चीज बताऊं, आई एम अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट बाय क्वालिफिकेशन. जो मैंने स्टॉक मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करके सीखा, आई वुड एनकरेज देम टू ओपन अकाउंट्स विद अ स्मॉल अमाउंट, मे बी 10,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees. They will start reading research reports, they will start following the economy, they would start learning the tricks of the trade. Every single news has an impact on the stock market one way or the other. So, शाम को खबर आएगी ना कि तेल की प्राइस बढ़ गई है, तो सुबह ये PSO को देख रहे होंगे और उसको देख रहे होंगे, खबर आएगी कि वो नीचे होगी तो उसको देख रहे होंगे. ठीक है, किसी पॉलिसी का कैसे किस सेक्टर पे इम्पैक्ट होता है, यू लर्न सो मच. आई मीन इन टुडेज डे, आई एम नॉट एन इकोनॉमिस्ट बाय प्रोफेशन, लेकिन टू टेल यू ऑनेस्टली, पीपल हु हैव देयर डिग्रीज इन इकोनॉमी, ठीक है, वी सिट देम with them, we challenge them because we have been students of practical side of what's happening in an economy, not just of Pakistan, but you start reading globally. हम डाउ जोन्स देख रहे होते हैं, हम यूएस की मार्केट्स देख रहे होंगे, हम लंदन की देख रहे होंगे, हम हांगकांग की देख रहे होंगे. सो दिस एक्टिविटी व्हेन यू पिक अप, you learn so much, and this is all practical. So all the more reason for students who are learning and trying to learn finance or business, or they want to learn anything, आप छोटी सी अमाउंट से भी स्टॉक मार्केट का अकाउंट खोलेंगे ना, आपका माइंड ट्यून हो जाएगा टू फॉलो, टू सी व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इन द कंट्री, एंड देन you would be contributing to the economy, because एक टाइम आएगा कि आपको समझ आना शुरू हो जाएगी कि what are the right decisions and what are the wrong decisions, how any decision is impacting what sector, what negativity prevails and why it prevails, why this could have been the other way around. So this all will make them a better quality product when they would eventually be in their professional careers.
बिल्कुल. एंड लेट मी जस्ट ऐड वन मोर थिंग कि इवन शुरू में अगर आपको लॉस भी हो ना, तो उससे डिस्करेज नहीं हो, बिकॉज वो हमारे उर्दू में कहते हैं ना, गिरते हैं शह सवारी मैदान जंग में. ठीक है, तो
और मैं इसमें आपकी बात में शुजा ऐड करूं, स्टॉक मार्केट्स में लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर की हार नहीं होती, कभी भी नहीं हारता. हमेशा ट्रेडिंग माइंडसेट वाला आदमी जो है, जो शॉर्ट टर्म से एंटाइस होगा या उसमें जरूर अपने पोर्टफोलियो की एलोकेशन करें, मे बी 20% शॉर्ट टर्म में जरूर खेल लें, 30 खेल लें, 40 खेलने चले, बट 60% शुड बी लॉन्ग टर्म. सिट ऑन इट एंड एंजॉय एंड सी how you multiply and where you go from there. So this has to be part of what you do. और अपनी सेविंग्स के प्रोफाइल को भी आप सेग्रीगेट करके करें, सारे पैसे स्टॉक मार्केट में मत डालें, मे बी टू बिगिन विद अबाउट 25-30%, उसको मैक्स भी करना हो 40%, बाकी दूसरे एवेन्यूज में जाएं, अपने रिस्क मैनेजमेंट को खुद करें. सो दिस ऑल कैन बी अ वेरी गुड लर्निंग, एंड पीपल हु आर स्टडीइंग एट IB or maybe LUMS or quality institutions, they should at the student age start investing into the stock market. 10, 12, 15,000 से कोई कीमत नहीं आएगी, but the learning is going to be immense.
Very true. अच्छा जी, with that I think हमारा time is almost over. So unless there are other questions, हम session यहाँ खत्म करते हैं, and I'll hand over to the host. Thank you all. Thank you Kamran साहब, Raza, Hamad, and Dr. Saqib.
Thank you so much.
Host.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shuja. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Shuja, for hosting it.
You're most welcome. Thank you and Khuda Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you and Khuda Hafiz. Thank you.
Guys, don't leave it just yet because we're going to be having our giveaway session right now. Should I like? All right, so I'm going to ask a question, ठीक है, and you guys are supposed to answer it over the chat. सही है, and we'll basically shortlist the winners later, and we'll contact you on our own. सही है? So first question is, when should a company buy back stocks? You guys can start answering in the chat. I repeat the question, when should a company buy back stocks? Also, you have like 1 minute to answer it. Uske baad we'll move on to the next question. Thank you. All right, over to the next question. You guys can stop answering it now. Okay. All right, why would an investor buy preferred stock over ordinary stock? I repeat, why would an investor buy preferred stock over ordinary stock? All right, you guys can stop answering. The last question is, please pay attention. What do you think is the most important skill one needs to start their trading journey? I repeat, what do you think is the most important skill one needs to start their trading journey? All right, guys, you can stop answering now. Stay posted on the Facebook page. We'll announce the winners soon. Thank you so much for participating, and also thank you so much for being very respectful. Uh, all right, thank you. Allah Hafiz.